Happy Wednesday, Unwoke Nation. I want to welcome you to episode 3 of the UnWokeShow, where free speech is welcome, all subjects are on the table, and your boys get raw and uncut every week for your enjoyment, baby. I am your co-host, Rich, along with my brother from another mother, Big Tim. How you doing, Tim?
Good, and you, Rich?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Hey, guys, we just want to thank you once again for enjoying all the episodes we've been doing. And remember, guys, we are here for you. We want to hear from you guys, and I'll hear about all the new comments we have coming out. So definitely reach out to us. And also, we have a couple social medias we'd love for you guys to check out. You can check out our Twitter page at UnWokeTheShow. And also, we'd like to hear your comments, questions, anything you have about any of the topics that we actually have. You can actually check us out at feedback@unwoketheshow.com. Again, that's feedback@unwoketheshow.com. So, guys, we definitely want to have a great talk about this tonight. And also, me and Tim have talked about this many a time. And also, I'm sure it's a subject that once you've been hearing about it, and also you definitely have had your mind on it and kind of wondered, like, what the heck is going on? But I'm going to let Tim be able to tell you about the topic tonight and everything, and let you take it from there, Tim.
So, tonight's show is about toxic masculinity.
I see.
Yeah.
Toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
This word. Okay. Now, Tim, maybe you can educate me and the rest of Unwoke Nation on what is considered the definition of toxic masculinity.
Well, according to the interweb, the truth of all things, toxic masculinity is an attitude or set of social guidelines stereotypically associated with manliness that often have a negative impact on men, women, and society in general.
Huh?
It has to have a negative? What?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, I would definitely like to get a little bit of elaboration on this definition, this urban, I think, alleged definition of what toxic masculinity is. So, what we did on Woke Nation is we went just one step further. Now, give your boy Tim a good shout out for this and all, because he was actually able to find a very good survey regarding toxic masculinity. And if you want to try it out yourself at all, you can actually go on to Testometrica. That's TSTOMETRIKA.com. So Testometrica.com. They have a smorgasbord of different surveys out there, but we specifically wanted to find one that actually tackled this toxic masculinity thing. So just kind of let you know, I went ahead and took the test. Tim is taking the test as well. And what I found was really interesting is about 36 questions, if I recall, in the survey. And I want to actually point out to you guys out there in the Unwoke Nation some of the questions that it was asking. Now, all these questions were multiple choice, but pretty much agree, disagree, kind of in the middle, what have you.
Here's one for you right here.
Yeah.
I would be willing to steal $1 million if I knew I would never get caught.
No.
I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. That's a hard no. Something about this just illegal. No, not doing it. Nope. I'm going to give you one more. It doesn't bother me to see homosexual couples out in public.
No.
Yeah. It doesn't bother me at all.
Dude, I don't care what you do in your bed. That's your business. All right,
okay. So that's some of the questions you can expect from this test that we took. So
yeah.
Let me give you a few supposed toxic masculinity behaviors.
Oh, boy.
Being stoic. Okay. Being violent. Yep. Sexual aggression towards women.
What?
Yep. Not displaying emotion. And not being a feminist ally. That's just a few. Just a few.
Just a few. So basically, one thing I will say about this particular survey is that, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, Tim, and also, but we both did the same thing as we just discussed. But I mean, this survey was extremely leading.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it was extremely leading.
They had a specific outcome.
Oh, absolutely. They did. I mean, so for myself, and also I went ahead and I took based on some of the questions they were asking, they give you all the results and everything, does a little thing, figure wherever it is. And basically it said for me, I have a low level of toxic masculinity, according to it. And it says that I have 44% arrogance, 29% anger, and 62% heteronormativity, which I don't even know if I knew what that term meant before taking this survey.
You just said it, and I'm still not going to try to figure that one out.
Yeah, I was just, so as I mentioned, guys, it's like, with this survey being so misleading, I had to just pretty much kind of, stir the pot a little bit here and try to put it all together to basically what this survey or whatever Yahoo's decided to make this way and come out what they basically have concluded on what I am as a person. So pretty much here's what your boy Rich is supposed to be about according to the survey. So basically, according to my toxic masculinity, it basically says that we're learning about what this is if you are toxic masculine in a way, it basically says that men are always angry and willing to flip out at any time, ready to fight. Being strong, either physically or mentally, is bad, and therefore makes you insensitive to all around you, as the question you had talked about previously.
Right.
Having confidence in yourself or in your career achievements is wrong. And men just see women as fuck toys, and children are just a burden. And lastly, if you are gay, you should just die. That's basically what this survey's trying to make everything. And all this is wrong.
Well, yeah, that's... If you're gay, you should just die.
I mean, it's like...
That's a little dark.
It is dark. It's like, I mean, think about the last question you were asked. What was it? It's like, what was that last question you were saying?
It says, it doesn't bother me to see homosexual couples out in public.
Right, so it's just...
So we wouldn't see that in public because they'd all be dead.
Right, exactly. If there was any truth to this at all. And I'm just kind of like, who the fuck is making up this shit?
Somebody sits around and thinks of this shit for sure.
I mean, just unbelievable. It's, and we've been hearing more and more about it. And also, and I think some of the big things that kind of go towards me is just the fact that we talked about in the last episode where just about, what's the definition of being a man? If you guys have not seen that, heard that episode yet, definitely go back and I'll check that out, or we'll probably give you a little more detail as we go into here in episode 3. But it's, I just don't get it. It's like, some of the things we talk about is like, a man just being a man and doing this like that is looked at as being bad now. And also, what's your thoughts on this, Tim?
Well, so first off, I can't believe this is actually a topic, and I didn't hear about it until you told me about it. I was like, what are you talking about? And then I hopped on YouTube and started looking at all these podcasts out there that were talking about toxic masculinity.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and either I've been living under a rock for a long time, or what they were talking about were just things that I didn't associate in any capacity as deemed toxic. Supposedly there are 3 core components to toxic masculinity. The first one... Ready, go! Yep. Toughness. We talked about this in our previous podcast, What It Means to Be a Man, about toughness. And according to the definition, this is the notion that men should be physically strong, emotionally callous, and behaviorally aggressive.
What?
Now, I do agree with physically strong.
Yes.
Okay. But there's an emotional strength in there as well that is not covered in this.
Would you call that mental toughness? There should be a guy should be able to have some mental toughness to him, or
well, absolutely. I mean, think about it. If let's take the example of you're at home, you're sitting with your family, you're having family game night.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, an armed robber busts in your house.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be tough, mentally and physically tough to deal with that situation.
Calm the fuck down and deal with it.
Yeah, this isn't go crawl under a rock or go lock yourselves in a room and pray the police show up in a reasonable amount of time to protect you and your family. No, you go and you handled it. So I think that's where the mental and physical toughness comes in.
But wait, Tim, don't you want a social worker to show up and calm everything down?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No.
Just kind of want, just, I mean, somebody breaks into your house and all please, sir, don't hurt my family.
Yeah, no, that's not going to fly.
No. Yeah.
No, that's not happening.
Yeah.
Anti-femininity.
Okay.
Yeah. So this involves the idea that men should reject anything that is considered to be feminine, such as showing emotion or accepting help.
Wait a minute. So
Calm down. No emotion here.
I'm trying. I am trying. So, uh, so they're saying that men who are this toxic masculine never ask for help, never do, never show emotion, never do it. Just complete stoicism, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, think of stoic, and so
Mhm.
you're not. So showing emotion is a sign of. I would take that as a sign of weakness.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you're at a family funeral and you're the only person not crying,
Mm-hmm. Can't be that you're trying to be strong for
nope.
family or anything like that or worse. And I know why you bring this up too. And also because we talked about this before.
Yeah.
And also, I unfortunately, had a very close I had a very close relative pass away probably about 4 or 5 months ago. And I know for my mom, it was a really hard time for her and all. And I knew at that moment in time where she really needed me to be that strong person. And she wasn't even asking me, but as like mentioned before, it's like there was a lot of growing up I had to do. So being the man of the household was very important, or being able to show some strength and different things like that. So, and Tim brings this up and also because it was a situation also where I really did not show any type of tears or anything like that until I happened to see a relative, and it was at that moment where I kind of let some tears out. My mom wasn't around me, and I remember actually I had two passings, and also one was my uncle early in the year. This one actually the story I'm telling you right now was dealing with a very close aunt of mine, and I remember when I went up to my uncle, my aunt's wife, and who passed. And I went up there and I went to him and I gave him a hug and I started crying. And I remember him saying to me, it's one of my, I remember him saying to me as I'm crying on the shoulder, and he says, "Your aunt would want you to be strong right now." That was his words.
Were those the types of traits your aunt possessed when
Yeah,
she was?
she was a very strong woman.
Okay.
Yeah, she was just very, very strong woman. And also, so my mom wasn't around me. I ended up going back. So we were at a celebration of life at our church back in Chicago. And went and sat down. Mom was right next to me, and she stopped and she asked me, she's like, Rich, are you okay? And I said, yeah, I'm fine. So, but I knew at that moment in time she needed that strength. Did it mean a word that I didn't care that my aunt left? That it didn't show an emotion? Obviously, I just explained that to you. I did, and also, but that was a moment in time where I think a lot of these people who are a quote want to say they're against the whole toxic masculinity will look like, well, you should have showed emotion and should have did all this, and it's like that's not what was needed at the time. She needed somebody to hold it together, and I did just that. Okay, so when I'm hearing this thing about showing like, oh well, you guys never showed emotion, or I believe that there's a time for it. I think there is. There's just a time for it, and being able to do that. And all. And then, like I said, there might be people out there who's listening that might disagree, and I respect everybody's opinion. And also, I'm not going to sit there and go and cry or do anything like that or unfriend people, just because they disagree with me. And also, but I just think that there was just a time for it, and at that moment in time, I think she appreciated the fact of me being there, me giving her, holding her hand, showing her that strength, and I think that was just something that was needed. So,
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure.
Mhm.
The third component is called power. This is the assumption that men must work toward obtaining power and status, social and financial, so they can gain the respect of others.
What's wrong with that?
Do you need the financial and the social in order to feel respected by others?
I think that I think one thing that's important to men is status. Now, for those people who might disagree with that, think about it this way. When you were in grade school, elementary school, and high school, if status was not important, nobody would care who's the high school starting quarterback. Nobody would care about who's Miss Popular if status was not important. Status is important, especially when it comes to guys. You know, because we have so many guys out there that, you know, they want a typical type of girl and all the other stuff like that. But status is important. And a lot of it has to do with just you understand what you're, you know, getting your purpose, doing the things you need to do. Now, that doesn't mean where you have to be a multimillionaire or something like that. But you should be able to, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, as I see your thoughts on it, but just being able to hold your own. You know,
Well, I would agree with you on holding your own. I don't
Okay.
know. For me, I don't need status,
Okay.
financial or social otherwise, because
What does status mean to you?
so status means to me everything that I have achieved,
Mm-hmm.
success wise, as well as the things that I have, the things that my wife and I have in our life,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, and I'm not going to start rattling off all this stuff, right?
Sure.
It's not about that.
Right.
But to me, knowing that I'm in a position to afford the things that we have because we've worked hard to be where we're at,
Right.
that's it. You know, when I think of status in the traditional sense, it's this 20,000 square foot house. I've got, you know, every Italian exotic car there is, right? I drive a Bentley every day. You know, it's those types of things that people would equate status to, right? The 200-foot yacht, right? Or the, you know, I only wear Rolex watches. I only wear Tom Ford suits, right?
Mhm.
These, you know, incredibly high-end things,
Mhm.
right? That to me is what, when I think of status, and let's look at it from a social aspect, and I've always thought this, and it's never going to change, is when you've achieved those upper levels of what we consider financial freedom,
Mm-hmm.
you find out real fast who your friends are when that financial freedom disappears.
That's true. That is very true.
You're only, in my opinion, you're only as elite as long as your money is there.
Mm-hmm.
Once the money disappears, and you're back here with us, what I would consider common folk,
Mm-hmm.
you find out you're pretty lonely pretty fast. So
I mean, people understand. I mean, they learn about how, you know, important what it comes with money, status, power, stuff like that. You know, I brought that up before and everything. So the guy who is 5'5", 300 pounds, who's the millionaire or has got some type of status, clout, whatever the case may be, like that, he's not fucking the supermodel for free.
no. He's only attractive because he's
Right.
got that money, and,
Yeah,
and I would
he's got
agree with
that,
that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It also talks about, you know, toxic masculinity glorifies unhealthy habits.
In what way?
Skipping on sleep, working out even when you're injured, and pushing yourself to the absolute physical limits.
So,
But I would argue, what's the phrase is self-care is for women, but I would argue that what's the balance of working hard versus pushing yourself to the limit?
yeah, and I know you mentioned that in the last episode as well, where you were talking about how, you know, it's okay to be able to work hard and everything, but if that is at the expense of your family or your children, or where, so that's a different story. And so I understand that there has to be a balance with that. When you're a young man, and you don't have those type of responsibilities. You know, in my opinion, or so I think it's, you know, when you're in your 20s, going through your mid 30s and stuff like that, where it's like, I would say that's probably the prime of your life and everything, where you really want to start pushing and doing those different things and also. But I mean, I think there has to be a certain balance to that, to an extent, of where, so, you know, we both consider ourselves very driven guys, and it's I mean, I think that, I don't know if I completely agree with everything that has to say. Where, so I mean, I understand. I get it all the time. I get people asking me about, you know, having that whole work life balance and doing those different things and all. But yeah, for a person, for a man to have some type of ambition, regardless of what level it might be, you know, I think if harnessed, I guess, you know, that's not a bad thing.
So you're saying it's more about really what this is saying is more about ambition,
Mm-hmm.
the ambition versus drive. But you can be ambitious
That's
about
I'd say it's kind of synonymous.
kind of.
Yeah, I'd say it's kind of synonymous, because I mean, a guy who's I mean a guy who has that ambition, or so he's got a vision of where he's trying to go. The drive, well, I guess the drive would be the effort. It would be a byproduct of that ambition, and so for a kid that wants to grow up and say, oh, I want to live this like this, okay, more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that, but I society in any portion of the world has not been created without somebody having an ambition to make things better.
But is
Look,
that necessarily a toxic masculinity trait?
no, because if you look at those situations of such empires such as Greece and all like that, they slowly progressed to the point and everything that our here in the United States. I mean, our entire government system, its structure is based off of what things we hear back in Greek and Roman time. What's a senator? All those different things were. That's a structure that was it. But it took them to cultivate to have an ambition of how do we make a society run correctly.
Okay.
And so that progression, that ambition to want society to be better, it sounds like based on this definition where it's almost to say that in itself is not considered good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, on a certain level,
Okay.
I would agree with that. Where do you stand on men expressing their feelings?
Uh, I mean, again, it kind of goes back to to what I said before, and I'm sticking with my guns with that, and is that I know that there's a time and a place for it. I'm sure we've all cried and we're at the sixth grade baseball game, because we lost it or something. So we've all had that, I think there's a time and a place for when you need to do that or so, and yeah, I guess it's kind of
Are you toxic if you don't talk about it, but then in the same breath now you may feel a sense of isolation
good question.
and loneliness because you're not talking about it, or you're too embarrassed to talk about it?
Um,
Because I'm pretty sure today's average male is definitely on the introvert side of things and is
Right.
not talking about his feelings because it's uncomfortable. I mean, when
Mhm.
you're talking about your feelings in general, it's always going to be uncomfortable.
Right.
But at least having the self awareness that that I need to deal with this, which I don't think exists today.
Mhm.
So is that necessarily a toxic trait? I would say no.
I would say no either because I feel that people who oppose what you just said automatically go to, oh, that person's about to be violent because they
How?
because they have this sense that if that man does not share or if that man does not share what is going on with him, he automatically is going to just lash out. I mean, let's look at the examples of where you were given just a little bit earlier. So there's just this idea where that men are just so easily ready to punch somebody, and so I would think people who believe in this toxic masculinity would jump to that conclusion quickly. Whereas opposed to you can sit there and say if you're a type of man out there that says, hey, you know what, I'm going through something, but I know I have enough mental strength to be able to handle it, then okay. Now that doesn't mean where so there's people out there where they just really need help. You have somebody out there who's got a major drug problem for 5, 10, 15 years or like that, and they go through some type of drug rehab program and stuff like that. I mean, yeah, that's somebody being responsible, and also, but to be a person and say that just because they don't do that, or they're not calling us like that they're automatically going to lash out and hurt somebody or whatever case. I mean, that's speculative. It's like I don't agree with that at all.
Okay. Um, where do you think that plays in with race, ethnicity, and gender?
Elaborate, man. That's a good one.
So, according to this particular article, uh, the masculine requirement to remain stoic and be a good provider can lead to John Henryism in African American men.
Huh?
This term is used to describe men who use high effort as a way to cope with problems, and they continue to do so in the face of chronic stress and discrimination,
I think that.
which can lead to hypertension and depression.
Oh, well, that's just common in black community, because
What, hypertension and depression?
no, the hyper.
What, you guys are wound tight and you're sad at the same time? How does that work?
Yeah. Let me clear that up. And also, no, high blood pressure in the African American community is actually a very common thing. And also, depression, I don't have any type of statistics or stats on that, so I won't comment on that. And also, but I will say, being a person of the black community is like, yeah, that's a very common. I work out 3 or 4 times a week in there like that, and I go to the doctor and be like, Dad, you still got a borderline. How the fuck does that happen? So, but it's like, yeah, to say that, it's almost like, I guess it's trying to say, like, if you're working really, really hard or so and just kind of willing to do that, that's, what, for achievement, that's a sacrifice. It really, really is. Now, that doesn't mean sacrificing your family or anything like that. And also, okay. But yeah, I'm talking about the individual himself and all being able to sacrifice that time. And also, let's think of some people who have done that in the past. So, like I said, George Lucas, who made Star Wars. I think if I understand where he said when he was making Star Wars, growing up in high school like that, he missed his own prom. So, but had he not done that, it's like, we wouldn't know about the Mandalorian, all these different types of things. Many people that I've read, and guys out there, I consider myself a student of success and a student of achievement, so I try to spend a lot of time reading about different people and what they've actually, done. And most of the great people that have created something, who have been pioneers or something like that, have done some pretty good stressful things that are considered to be stressful or sacrificial to achieve some of the things we actually enjoy today. So, I mean, I don't know. To say that that's a burden on black men, I'm having a hard time really agreeing with that. I think black, white are indifferent, where it's like, we go through sacrifices. And also, I mean, Tim, I remember you telling me one time where, you grew up, when your family moved out, where you said you worked 2 jobs just to be able to survive.
Yeah. I mean, I had my first professional job, and then I was still working a retail job.
Right.
But that's back when I thought I was a $30,000 millionaire.
Right. Exactly.
And I wanted to go out with all my friends all the time and go out and drink and stuff like that. Then all of a sudden bills come. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but the question is that by you being a man that's willing to go that extra mile,
right,
to take care of himself, according to them, is that a fair way of saying, hey, Tim, you doing that is considered toxic masculine because you're willing to go one step further to make sure of your survival?
No, I think that working hard, work ethic, I think that all gets misconstrued in this whole notion of toxic masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
Those lines aren't cut and dry, but I don't think they're necessarily blurred. How do you is someone like you or someone like me or other people out in society who are just naturally hard workers, who are putting in 12, 14-hour days, 16-hour days, right? Or who were even picking up overtime at their factory job on the weekends to make ends meet. Does that necessarily make them toxic?
No.
Are they a toxic male for doing that?
Exactly. I mean, are you, according to them, are you less toxic because, if you have your average person makes, say, $43,000 a year, but the person that has some type of business or there's some type of executives like that, and because they make, say, $520,000 like that, or so, are they going to say the latter's more toxic masculine than the former? Is that a fair shake?
Yeah,
right
I would say that.
You would agree with that, or you're just saying that's what they were saying?
That's what they were saying.
That's what they were saying. Okay.
So I would, in the example, if you own your own business,
right,
and you're grinding away, you want your business to be a success. You've gotten married, you have kids. Is it necessarily toxic that you spend so much of your time working and maybe you're neglecting your kids? You're not neglecting it on purpose, right? No. Your kids and your wife. Does that necessarily make you toxic? or um, or is it just the exact opposite? You're seen as you're working really hard. Now, if you're working hard,
Mm-hmm.
but you're working hard because you want to avoid family life and you want to avoid your wife, then yeah, you're definitely a toxic
Yeah,
man.
I would. That's a
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah. That's going to be a different story. Where so if I try to point the scenario for myself, where I'm not married, don't have any kids, and also, but if I had a little girl and I know my little girl really loves horses, and I knew in our area that she wanted to take like some type of like horse riding or something like that, I would not consider it being toxic masculine to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put in an extra 8 or 10 hours a week to make an extra, say, $1,500, so I can have the enjoyment of seeing her smiling face sitting on top of a horse, learning how to ride and all the other stuff. To me, I don't think that's toxic masculine. That's a father wanting to provide the best for his child.
Okay, I I would agree with that.
Mhm.
So let me give you a few scenarios, and these are supposedly toxic masculinity examples.
Ready, go!
All right, here we go. When a boy in school doesn't act in traditionally masculine ways, and he's bullied by the boys in his class for being too feminine.
I'm trying to figure out how to answer this.
Because we're dealing with relationships, schools, workplaces,
Right,
right?
right. Do I? So is it more? Do I see that as a problem?
Are you too feminine because you didn't act in what is maybe what should have been the expected behavior?
I mean, that's kind of hard to really. I realize where there are kids out there that are just for whatever reason, and also I have a relative, and also I mean he might be a big boy in there like that. So, but if you slapped him now, he'd probably start crying.
Okay.
There ain't no way you put him in a high school football game.
All right.
It's like
How about this one? When a boy cries and his father tells him to toughen up or that men don't cry.
I had a mom that said that. It's like,
I mean, I remember I'll give you something to cry about.
Right, exactly.
Right.
We have a saying in my family. It's like buck up and kick in. So,
here you go. You'll like this one.
okay.
When a man calls women sluts or whores for having sex outside of monogamous relationships.
Yeah, I'm.
Is that toxically masculine? Or are you just calling a spade a spade?
Nope, it's called truth and everything.
All
So
right.
it's like that's how it's like. That's just the thing. It's like, well, no, you shouldn't call me that. And they're like, look, if you're sitting up there having slut summer, it is what it is. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, that's what it comes down to. I mean, it's just, you see, it's almost like, when you call a spade, it's like it is what it is. It's like, so you can't sit there and have people where they're going to say, well, oh, well, you can't call me that and like that. So people have no problem sitting up there calling a guy, saying like, if a guy's overweight, they don't sit there and call him a fat fucker. He's supposed to take it.
I mean, when I play golf with my buddies, if your golf ball doesn't get past the red tees, you got to drop your pants. I mean, come on. I mean, that's just it is. I mean, does that make me toxic?
No.
Oh, yeah, but when you're with your guys, I mean, that's just dudes being dudes, as my
Right.
daughter would say, right? That term. So, how about this one? When a man tells his partner what they can and cannot wear and who they are and not allowed to spend time with.
Not so much for the latter, but the former.
You're just an asshole on this one.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I'm talking about, like, for instance, I mean, I saw one time, I was out on a date, and there was one, I mean, something was just like a little too like revealing, like that, and it's kind of like, okay, I look at it this way. I got a buddy, my buddy in Texas, where he made a good point. He says, if you got a girl who likes to dress promiscuous and you're going to take them to a black tie affair and she's dressed like that.
Someone's getting laid tonight.
True. so, but it's still one
It
of
may not be you.
Right. So, but,
yeah, so
but it's, I guess he would use the example of, it's like, when you have that, it's going to be a little bit different where it's like, okay, and let's say it's a business meeting, so if it's a business meeting, you kind of have that. It's like, she's going to be a reflection of you, a representation of you. And so if I'm something, I got a girl and she's just a little bit too revealing and everything like that. I mean, I'm talking, I don't care, Megan Thee Stallion type or whatever, so. And you want to take her to a business meeting where, I'm thinking to myself a couple things. And let's say some of those guys who you're having a business meeting with, a business dinner or something like that, and they happen to bring their wives. You honestly think those wives are not going to sit there and go, hey, honey, when they're back at home? It's like, hey, honey, did you see that girl that Tim was with?
No, they're gonna be looking at their husbands like, don't you stare at that.
Well, on top of that.
Don't get any ideas.
Right.
And he's thinking like, honey, why aren't you dressing like that?
Right. Right. So
is that toxically masculine right there to say
no?
So I'm going to give you one more.
Right.
So when a man is struggling with his mental health and doesn't want to see a therapist because he should man up or power through it.
I go back to what I said before. There are certain situations, people have like a major drug problem like that, or so that I don't think that there's anything wrong getting help for. And also, I guess I say it kind of depends on the situation.
I think this plays right into the whole turn in your man card, or you just need to man up,
right?
Or rub some dirt on it type of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not toxic if you're not willing to. I don't think it's a toxically masculine trait about not addressing mental health, because your mental health issue itself could be preventing you from taking that first step. And unless you just recognize, unless you have the self-awareness to say, you know what, I know I have a mental disorder going on,
mm-hmm.
or my mental health is just off, but you're like, I can just power through it, which I think is really what this is just saying. I can work this out. I don't need to go see somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would have fit probably 40 years ago, because
mm-hmm.
That stigma back then is, he's crazy.
Well,
stay away from him. He's gone bonkers type of thing. Right?
Well, actually, and I know I would definitely agree about 40 years ago where it was a very common thing. But actually, when I was doing some research for today's episode, and also I did find one where that was actually from a news source called The Conversation, where it's actually based out of Australia. And this dates back to probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And it said they surveyed about 1,000 young men and also asked them about different, manhood traditional pillars and also, but describing it exactly on the topic at hand, where so of all those the 1,000 young men that they actually had in the survey, 69% of them think men should be strong. So I'm sure that probably means physically as well, but also kind of wonder if it's going to be also mentally.
But how is that a toxically masculine trait to be strong?
Your guess is
I don't.
as mine,
That's what I don't. I don't get where this overinflated thought process of men being tough. Like, to me, that should just be in your DNA.
Right. Quite honestly, it is.
And that doesn't exist today.
Right. It's much less.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely much less. Today. But I mean, just to see that statistic, is very, just even to defend themselves, where, this survey went on to where it says of the 1,000 young men, 60% believe men should fight back when pushed.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, we
talked about that in our previous podcast, right? What it means to be a man.
Right. It's like, saying it's like, you're going to do that. It's like, it would not make sense where it's like, we know it's in DNA, and that's why you're so right, Tim, because if a guy is out there and he's taking his girl out on a date, and some guy comes and he starts harassing this girl, I think she would expect the guy to defend her in some way, shape, or form.
Because
so,
if not, she's leaving with that other guy.
Exactly. So why are these people who are doing these surveys and different things want to say that, oh, well, that should be, or, Tim, you should probably talk them down and see how that goes.
Well, that's because society is just overly sensitive today.
Right.
Right. Everything is an issue in some capacity.
Right.
It just feels like guys can't be guys.
Right.
Right. And
quite honestly, it just sounds like it's like they want us more and more to be more feminine and to be more like women.
I hope not. I don't think. I mean, it's if we are, we're in trouble.
Yeah,
big time.
Yeah, we're in serious trouble, and also because my firm belief is that whenever there is trouble or tyranny that happens in a society, that is the time we need men who are willing to fight, who are willing to who are willing to be what they're opposing, being masculine, to step up. And having this mentality to put what is down, and I agree with you when you're saying about, that it's almost built inside of us, to depress or to suppress that, I think is a bad thing.
The minute I think a man stops stepping up in any capacity, that's just, you're done at that point.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you're finished. There's nothing else.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets back to that whole toughness thing. And I don't worry about, the future and stuff. I just hope men and kids, male today toughen up. I would even go so far as to grow a spine, grow up hair. I mean, come on, it's ridiculous. But you shouldn't be labeled toxic for physically or mentally tough or delaying dealing with the mental health issue. Because again, that mental health issue could be preventing you from actually going to deal with it.
Right. Or more importantly, it's like, when you're going, we all go through trials and troubles and different things like that or so, but, to be in a mentality of not understand that maybe going through that trial might make you a stronger person would be really good. And that even goes as far as like, somebody, like I mentioned before, like somebody who has a drug problem and they're willing to go through the 12-week program or 12-step program or something like that. It takes courage to do that.
I would agree.
Yeah, it takes courage to be able to say, hey, I realize I have a problem. I want to change my life. I see something better for me. I'm willing to go through this and sacrifice my time or my money to be able to have a better life. And so I think something even as simple as that takes courage to do.
I don't disagree. So to that note, Unwoke Nation, I leave it up to you. To be honest, I think this whole toxic masculinity thing is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah.
I think society just needs to just calm the fuck down. All right, step back for a minute, take a breath, and just, in some capacities, just let guys be guys.
Yeah.
Just give us 5 minutes. Then you can go back to being super sensitive, overly sensitive, whatever you want to call it. But I think it's just time. Toxic masculinity, I think it's stupid. I'm just leaving it at that. I just think it's stupid, and everybody just needs to seriously just calm the fuck down.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. Where I think this is this whole toxic masculinity movement is a way of just trying to make trying to suppress men being exactly what they were intended to be. Be those defenders, being the people who are able to stand up when things are going wrong, being those type of providers, doing all those different things, and it's just ridiculous. And I agree, what we were talking about before, where it's like, the moment that it comes down that men are not allowed to be those type of men, and tyranny strikes, that's when it becomes a major issue. And I agree with you, Tim. I hope not. I hope we don't get to that point, and that men such as yourself will still be able to stand up and be able to to take their place where they should be. So
absolutely. All right, Unwoke Nation. We will see you guys next week.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for enjoy. Definitely see you next week and all. And we love, like I said, we love to hear your feedback on this topic, and also definitely reach out to us at feedback at the unwoketheshow.com. Again, feedback at unwoketheshow.com. And we will see you next Wednesday. Take care.